I thought winning the lottery would solve all my problems, but it only showed me who the real monsters in my life were. It's a cliche, I know, the kind of thing people say when fortune twists into a curse. But until you live it, you can't comprehend the absolute, soul-crushing weight of that truth. My life before the win was uncomplicated, built on a foundation of simple pleasures and honest work. As a mechanic, I found solace in the tangible world of engines and wrenches, where a problem could be diagnosed, fixed, and made right. My wife, Brooke, was my opposite, and that's what I loved about her. She was all sharp edges and bright ambition, a rising star in a marketing firm who saw the world as a series of opportunities to be seized. She loved me, I believed, for my steadiness, my grounding presence. My father, Robert, a retired factory foreman with callous hands and a firm handshake, was the embodiment of the values I held dear: integrity, loyalty, and family above all. I trusted them both with every fiber of my being. That trust was the foundation upon which they built their betrayal. The night of the win was a surreal, beautiful dream from which I never truly woke. It was a rainy Tuesday, and I'd stopped at the same corner store I always did, buying soda and, on a whim, a lottery ticket. I used Brooke's birthday and our anniversary numbers, a sentimental gesture that felt lucky. That night, covered in grease in the garage, I pulled out my phone and opened the lottery app. The numbers on the screen matched the smudged ones on the ticket in my pocket. $87 million. The number was so large it was abstract, meaningless. Then my brain did the math, and the world tilted on its axis. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I remember stumbling into the house, my voice a hoarse croak as I called for Brooke. She descended the stairs, her silk robe flowing behind her, a slight frown on her perfect features, annoyed at the disruption. When I shoved the phone in her face, her expression shifted from irritation to disbelief, then to a kind of ecstatic shock I'd never seen before. She screamed a high, piercing sound of pure joy and launched herself into my arms. We clung to each other, laughing and crying, talking over each other about paying off the mortgage, traveling the world, helping our families. We called my dad. He arrived within a half hour, not with the cheap beer we usually shared, but with a bottle of single malt scotch that probably cost more than my first car. "That's my boy," he'd roared, his voice filled with a pride that made my chest swell. He poured 3 generous glasses, and we toasted to our future, to our family, to our incredible luck. In that warm, golden-lit moment, surrounded by the 2 people I loved most, I felt invincible. I was a king in my own castle, blissfully unaware that the courtiers were already plotting my overthrow. The initial euphoria was quickly replaced by a daunting, bureaucratic reality. Our lives became a whirlwind of meetings with stern-faced lawyers, smooth-talking financial advisors, and a constant low-grade paranoia about privacy. We were advised to maintain a semblance of normalcy. Don't quit jobs abruptly. Avoid flashy purchases. But the money was a ghost in every room, changing the atmosphere. Brooke's conversations shifted from client campaigns and office gossip to discussions of asset allocation, trust funds, and legacy planning. She started spending long afternoons with my dad, their heads bent over financial statements and real estate portfolios. I saw it as a blessing. My sophisticated wife and my pragmatic father were joining forces to protect me, to guide our family to a secure future. I was grateful. I'd nod along to their explanations, my mind glazing over at the mention of capital gains and irrevocable trusts. The garage, with a familiar scent of oil and gasoline, became my sanctuary from their complex world of high finance. The first, faint whisper of doubt came about 2 months after the win. I came home early one afternoon, the garage being slow, and found Brooke and my dad not in the living room, but in my home office. They were standing close, their bodies angled intimately toward each other, looking at something on his tablet. They didn't hear me come in. It was the way my dad's hand rested on the small of Brooke's back, a gesture that was just a fraction too familiar. That lingered a moment too long. It wasn't sexual, but it was proprietary. They both started when they noticed me, and a sudden, brittle silence filled the room. It was broken by my dad's overly hearty voice. Just looking at a prime piece of commercial real estate. Son, a real game changer. Brooke had quickly closed the cover on the tablet, her smile a little too bright. Your father has an incredible eye for opportunity. This could triple our initial investment. I remember feeling a cold trickle of unease, but I dismissed it. I was being paranoid. This was my father. This was my wife. But the unease grew, fed by 100 small things. Brooke's meetings with my dad became more frequent and less documented. When I asked what they were discussing, she'd wave a hand dismissively. Oh, you know, Robert, he's a whirlwind of ideas. It's all very hush-hush until the contracts are signed. You understand. I didn't, but I didn't want to seem like the suspicious, controlling husband. She started upgrading her wardrobe, her jewelry, when a stunning diamond bracelet appeared on her wrist, a piece that screamed of expense far beyond anything we'd previously considered. I asked about it. Her explanation was smooth, rehearsed. Your dad gave it to me. A thank you for all the hard work I'm putting into managing our new life. He said every successful partner deserves a perk. The word partner stuck in my craw. I was her husband. He was my father. What kind of partnership was this? I finally confronted my dad, choosing my words carefully over a beer in my garage. Dad, this bracelet, it's a lot. And you and Brooke seem very close these days. He looked at me with an expression of mild disappointment, the kind he used to reserve for when I'd failed to properly torque a bolt. Son, you need to adjust your mindset. We're not playing small ball anymore. This is about building an empire. Brooke is a key asset in that. You motivate assets. You reward performance. Sentimentality has no place in business. I felt chastised, small. He was the expert. He'd built a solid, if modest, life through hard work. Who was I, the lucky lottery winner, to question his methods? The doubt began to turn inward. Was I jealous? Insecure? Was I the problem? The anchor holding back their ambitious plans? The moment my world shattered was deceptively mundane. I was getting a glass of water in the kitchen late one night. Brooke was outside on the patio, her voice a low, urgent murmur. The French doors were slightly ajar. I stood in the dark, frozen, as her words drifted in, cold and sharp as shards of glass. He's getting suspicious, Robert. We can't keep him in the dark much longer. The LLC formation is complete. Once we get the power of attorney, we can move the rest of the capital. He'll be locked out. Yes, I'm sure I can get him to sign. He's so trusting. It's almost pathetic. No, I know it's not just the money. It's the control. It's everything. Robert, pathetic, control. The words landed like physical blows. I leaned against the counter, my legs weak, my breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just financial advice. This was a conspiracy. The LLC, the power of attorney, they weren't tools for our family's prosperity. They were the weapons for my financial execution. And they were doing it together. My wife and my father. The two pillars of my life had been hollowing out the foundation, and I was about to fall into the abyss. A cold, hard calm settled over me. The naive, trusting husband was gone, replaced by a strategist. I decided to play their game, but by my rules. I became the perfect mark. I complained more about the stress of the money, feigned a deeper disinterest in the boring details. I gave them more latitude, more confidence. And they took the bait, their movements becoming bolder, less cautious. The climax of their plan came on a Friday evening. Brooke approached me with a file of documents, her expression a masterpiece of wifely concern. "Sweetheart, I know you hate all this legal stuff, but this is the last big hurdle." She placed a thick document on the coffee table. "It's a limited power of attorney. It just lets me and your dad execute the big deals without having to run to you for every signature. It will make everything so much more efficient." My father stood behind her, a pillar of support. "It's a standard wealth protection vehicle. Son, shields your personal assets. Any good financial manager would recommend it." I looked at the document, then at their expectant faces. I could see the hunger in my father's eyes, the calculated gleam in Brooke's. They were so close to their prize. I picked up the pen, feeling their focused attention. I made a show of clicking it, of hovering over the signature line. "You know," I said slowly, putting the pen down, "my lawyer, Mr. Abrams, remember him? The one you said was too cautious. He made me promise I'd have him look over anything this important before I signed it. Said it was the only smart thing to do." The temperature in the room plummeted. Brooke's carefully constructed smile cracked. "There's no time for that," she said, a sharp edge of panic in her voice. "This opportunity is time-sensitive." My father's face darkened. "We've had our own top-tier legal team review this. Son, it's perfect. Your Mr. Abrams is a small-town lawyer who doesn't understand this level of finance. Sign the papers." The command in his voice, the sheer arrogance, solidified my resolve. "No," I said, standing up and tucking the document under my arm. "I'll have it back to you on Monday, after Mr. Abrams takes a look." I walked out, leaving them in a stunned, furious silence. I went straight to my garage, my hands trembling not with fear, but with rage. I called Mr. Abrams at his home number. I told him everything. The whispered phone call, the bracelet, the pressure to sign, the names Robert and LLC. The old lawyer listened in grim silence. "Don't sign a thing," he finally said, his voice like gravel. "I'll be at your office first thing in the morning. We're going to war." The next 48 hours were a blur of clandestine activity. Mr. Abrams, a bulldog of a man who valued ethics over billable hours, was apoplectic. He mobilized his firm's entire forensic accounting division. What they uncovered was a web of deceit, so extensive it took my breath away. My father and Brooke hadn't just been planning. They were already in motion. They had established a complex network of shell companies, with a primary LLC named Apex Legacy Holdings. Tens of thousands had already been filtered into it. They had joint bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. And a most chilling discovery, a newly taken out life insurance policy on me, with a value of $10 million, with Brooke as the sole beneficiary. The pieces of their endgame snapped into place with horrifying clarity. Isolate, impoverish, and then eliminate. The word echoed in my mind, making me physically ill. We planned our countermove with military precision. I called Brooke and my dad, my voice contrite. "You were right," I said, laying it on thick. I was being stupid. "Mr. Abrams said it looks fine. Let's meet tonight. I'll sign." Mr. Abrams was hidden in my study, his digital recorder running, connected to a speaker system. 2 off-duty police officers, hired for security, were positioned outside as a precaution. They arrived together. As always, they sat on the couch, their body language radiating triumph. The unsigned power of attorney document lay on the table between us. "I'm glad you came to your senses," my dad began, his voice dripping with condescending victory. "Let's get this done and start building our future." I looked at them, these 2 architects of my ruin, and felt nothing but a cold, clean hatred. "Our future?" I asked, my voice quiet but cutting through the room. "You mean your future, the one you've been building behind my back." Brooke's face went pale. What are you talking about? This is for us. I picked up the document and slowly, deliberately, tore it in half. The sound of ripping paper was explosive in the silent room. I know about Apex Legacy Holdings. I said, my eyes locked on my father's. I know about the $200,000 you transferred last week, disguised as a consulting fee. I know about the joint account in Grand Cayman. And I especially know about the life insurance policy you took out on me. I turned my gaze to Brooke. Did you really think I was too much of a fool to notice you were planning my funeral? The mask shattered. Brooke shot to her feet. Her beautiful face twisted into a grotesque mass of fury. You stupid, ungrateful piece of shit, she screamed, spittle flying from her lips. You fell into this money. You didn't earn a cent of it. You're a simple-minded grease monkey who got lucky. We were the ones with the brains. We were the ones with the vision. You would have wasted it all on your stupid garage and your pathetic dreams. We were taking what was rightfully ours to manage. My father stood more slowly, but the contempt in his eyes was a physical force. She's right. You are a fool. This kind of power, it requires a strength you simply don't possess. You're soft, sentimental. We saw an opportunity to elevate this family, to create a real dynasty, and you were the only obstacle. We were just removing the obstacle. Hearing the venom, the sheer, unvarnished truth of the betrayal, was like a surgical lance, draining a festering wound. The pain was immense, but it was pure. The lies were over. So it was all a lie? I asked, my voice eerily calm. From the very beginning, the two of you was this always a plan. Brooke let out a harsh, mirthless laugh. Love? Don't be absurd. This was a merger, a hostile takeover. Your father provided the strategic direction, and I provided the access. It was the most logical path to success. I looked at my father, the man who taught me to throw a baseball, to change a tire, to be a man. You were my father. He didn't even blink. And you were a disappointment, a lottery winner, a joke. This was my chance to have the life I was meant for, the life I earned through decades of real work. I wasn't going to let my sentimental son stand in my way. There was nothing left to say. I nodded. Mr. Abrams. I called out, I believe we have what we need. The study door opened. My lawyer walked out, holding up his phone. The entire conversation has been recorded, he stated calmly, along with all the financial documents we've uncovered. I've already been in contact with the district attorney's office. I'd strongly advise you both to say nothing further and contact your attorneys immediately. You are going to be facing a considerable number of charges. The looks on their faces, the sheer, unadulterated terror, were the only justice I would feel for a long time. Brooke lunged at me, her nails clawing, but I easily caught her wrist and pushed her back onto the couch. You'll never make it stick, my father roared, but his voice was thick with fear. Fraud, conspiracy, grand larceny, attempted murder for the insurance policy. Mr. Abrams listed coolly. I think we will. The aftermath was a public spectacle. The police arrived, and the perp walk was captured by the local news. Lotto millionaire betrayed by wife and father was a headline that screamed from every screen. The legal proceedings were long and brutal. The criminal case resulted in convictions for both of them. The civil suit I filed stripped them of every single asset they had, including the money they'd already stolen. My father's reputation was annihilated. My mother, who had been divorced from him for years, called me, her voice broken, weeping for the man he used to be and the son he had tried to destroy. The divorce from Brooke was the coldest transaction of my life. She signed the papers from a jail cell, getting nothing but the orange jumpsuit she was wearing. I was left alone in a mansion that felt like a tomb, the silence screaming with the echoes of their treachery. The money felt dirty, cursed. It took me a year to find my footing. I sold everything, the house, the cars, the investments they had made. I moved to a remote stretch of coastline, to a small, weather-beaten house where the only sound was the crash of the waves. And I began the process of reclaiming my soul. I used the majority of the money to establish a foundation, not in my name, but in the name of that naive, trusted mechanic I used to be. The Integrity Foundation provides legal and financial support for victims of fraud and familial betrayal. It's my way of forging a purpose from the pain, of creating a shield for others from the weapons that were used against me. Sometimes, on the porch overlooking the endless ocean, I think of that last conversation. I remember the coldness in my father's eyes and the rage on Brooke's face. They thought they were taking my future, but they were wrong. They only destroyed the future I thought I wanted. The man I am now is harder, wiser, and fiercely protective of his peace. The money didn't bring me happiness, but surviving the betrayal taught me the value of something far greater, my own unshakable integrity. And that was the one treasure they could never steal.